something new.
Hot fire gasolina, Medea medicina. Hot fire gasoline, and Satan come to see ya. Hot fire gasolina, Medea medicina. Hot fire gasoline, and Satan come to see ya. Rolling with a purple slither, glowing chalice of dragon venom. Rock the star of Ishtar, hot purple bacchanalia. Hit you with a ticket, heads nodding. Orphic hymns to the moon, the language of the birds. Death brother pure, wild stallion crew. Rolling in the main, magic gin, 60 pound of green, diamond shining. I'm in this thing, conch don't ring, blingy bling, hot purpley, venomous cream, sail the seven seas. Hot fire, gasoline, dance with the muse. Athena, Medea, flying in your dreamer. Doom gatekeeper, blaze the ganja greener. Greek fire keeper, Om Sima Sima. Medulla riding with me, my girl's with it. Dragon poison, every rose has its thorn. White snake, Orpheus. Hot fire gasolina, Medea medicina. Hot fire gasoline, and Satan come to see ya. Hot fire gasolina, Medea medicina. Hot fire gasoline, and Satan come to see ya.
Welcome back to Lady Babylon. This is Initiating Apocalypse. I appreciate all of you who came tonight, and I know that you're here not to hear me tonight. Tonight you're here to hear Danny Jones. We are going to have Danny Jones on. Oh, Chewy, look, already spit him up there. Danny Jones, welcome to Lady Babylon, and thank you for coming tonight. Let me just say what a privilege and an honor it is to be able to talk with you. And thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here on the Lady Babylon. It's about time.
Yeah, right. It is. Right. It's overdue. Let's get right to it, though. Let's not waste any of these people's time. Let's get right to it. Here we go. You just put something out. And I have to say, fantastic. Went on Patreon, and I have to say, it was. The only way I can describe it is epic, in that it brings out a struggle. You will watch Congregation of Satan. You will watch Danny go through a process in this interview with Dan McClellan. You'll see him go through a process, and that's what I want to talk about tonight, Danny. I want to talk about you, because you're sitting there in the middle of, you've heard Neil, you've heard me, you've heard Dan, you've been investigating all of this Bible stuff thrown, and today I saw you break through. And it was magical. It was from antiquity. It was truly classical. And I thought, bingo, that's it, right? You broke through. You didn't have to. You can't be fooled. They can't take you into the back alley anymore, Danny. And I want to share, audience tonight, your journey. So tell me something, a little bit about your background, because you weren't raised in a Baptist church, right?
That's correct. I never saved any souls in my childhood. My background is in filmmaking. So when I was younger, I was always running around with a video camera, filming my friends fucking around, surfing and skating. And we would all film each other and make these little home movies and watch each other just do dumb stuff. And then that eventually evolved into making commercials and stuff for, like, I had friends who had, rich parents, and they owned big businesses, and their parents would hire me to make commercials or videos for their companies. And then eventually I started getting into television production and working on like feature films, like major studio productions. And, I spent my whole life thinking I wanted to just be like a filmmaker and create cool documentaries and cool content, music videos, movies, whatever. And once I really got a taste of the real movie industry, doing stuff for, you know, like Warner Brothers and Sony, it's those guys are all miserable, and they're all sort of like carnies with dental plans, because they make a lot of money, but they're never home. They're always traveling all over the road, and they're all just basically drunks. Not all of them. There's a lot of good guys too. I shouldn't say that. But anyways, long story short, after I got out of that, I started doing my own documentaries, and I was producing different like mini documentaries for the internet for about 3 to 4 years. And when the whole podcast thing came about, we started saying, hey, like, it takes us 2 to 3 months to make each one of these little mini documentaries on YouTube. Why don't we supplement the documentaries and just, you know, do one of these podcasts, talk about it? And we started doing that. And after a couple years, the podcast videos started to get way more attention and traffic than the actual documentaries we were spending all this time and pouring our blood, sweat, and tears into. So eventually we're just like, fuck it. We're just going to, I'm going to start treating the podcast like its own documentary, minus all the B-roll, all the music, and all the grueling editing that goes into it. So that's basically the gist of it.
Give me up. Tell me something, Danny. Looking at everything from the camera's angle, and having been initiated into that art, did you bring, I know you brought the moral lesson out of it of, look, you know, let's all push ourselves to drunken mania. Yeah. The success and all that, put all that aside. Did the art of working the camera, did that kind of foster your growth in the field?
Well, I mean, that's definitely where it started. The art of the camera and the different lenses and the lighting. There's so much that goes into cinematography, and that was my passion, for sure. But, you know, it's not a sustainable way to live, at least for me to live. You know, I have a family, I have a lot of people that I'm responsible for. And for me to be like running around with the type of stuff that I was making, I was running around in really weird places, like filming creepy people telling weird stories that I thought were interesting and that shined a light on parts of society that people really didn't pay attention to. I like to think of it as like turning over rocks and finding what's underneath there, what exists that people don't see on a regular basis. But yeah, no, it's weird. The transition from the whole camera thing and the cinematography part of it it didn't really translate to podcasting at all, to be honest. But yeah, I don't know if that answers your question. I don't know. What
you haven't gone anywhere because you're still talking to creepy people.
Yes, exactly.
You're still.
I can't help it. I can't help it, Ammon.
You're in the same zone.
It's the Muse calling me. The Muse is calling me to the same type of stuff. No matter what the medium is, my calling is there. I know what I want to hear. I know what the stories that I want to tell. And when I first discovered you, I was drawn to you. Like when I first listened to your podcast with Hamilton, and Hamilton made a point in the beginning of that podcast that he wouldn't be able to post it on YouTube because he thought his YouTube channel would get struck down. I was like, there's got to be a way to get this guy out in front of more people. There's got to be a way. And we made it happen. At the end of the day, that's all that matters. I just like telling the stories. It doesn't matter what the medium is, whether it be a podcast, music, writing, literature, or cinematography. At the end of the day, it's all about the Muse. Oh. And that's what I did with Dan McClellan. I defended the Muse.
Yes, yes. Oh my God. Do you hear it? Look what happens, Satanic Congregation. You poke the man, and out comes the font of classical wisdom. It's like it's natural. It's part of our organism or something. With that, we have that temple to reason. Everybody, pay attention. This is the transformation. This is the mystery, man. I love this. Oh God, that Muse is everything. Okay, so let's jump.
Another thing that I really loved about you when I first listened to your podcast on Hamilton, I started to do some research on you. I was just like, first of all, how do I not know what classics is? Second of all, how are you here looking the way you do, performing the way you do on these videos with 30 plus years of scholarship and research and reading and dedication to this art, and no one else knows about this? I was blown away. So, and another thing is, you're not out there writing books, trying to monetize this in any way. So that's another reason I was really fascinated with.
Yeah. And I told you, devil's contract, man. You can't, you gotta keep that solid. If you take any money for it, you lose that access to the Muse. It's gone, baby. And I don't know what the Greeks were trying to teach, but I think the heart of that is you can be seduced away from her beauty just for some payola. And it has a corrupting influence. You know what I mean? It's got a terrible corrupting influence. Okay, we don't have to sell anybody anything on here. Here's what I want to do. So everybody hears, and Danny, please tell me if I'm wrong, but you are not part of a religious organization. You have not been raised religiously. The Bible to you is something new, right? I mean, you know what it is, obviously, but you haven't been reading it, right?
Hail Satan, Ammon. No, I have not. I'm not religious at all. I wasn't brought up religious. I've always been fascinated with religion, but I don't know why I never decided to pick up a Bible or really try to learn about it. Just maybe because I was just lazy and I knew it would take a lot of time. But for that, I'm thankful to you being the catalyst for me to jump down this rabbit hole that I've been so obsessed with for the past few months. I didn't know anything about this 3 months ago when we met. Nothing.
Good.
Your book was my introduction. The Chemical Muse is my introduction to religion.
Okay. My God, do you hear what we're doing with Experiment Alpha? Right? This is patient 1, Danny Jones. Somebody write this down. Do you see? He has no exposure. Right? He just gets stuff that flows in from whatever's in his environment with holidays and whatnot. He's not exposed to the core text. Now, let's see what happens as we go through this journey. Danny, you have been interviewing people who have been talking about the Bible, and it seems like, just from watching you today, it seemed like you had, in the meantime, gotten a degree somewhere or something. Right? What? So I know you're rapidly assimilating everything. Tell me a little bit about how it feels to be engaging in something that's now piqued your interest, and it's totally nerd. It's just plain nerd. You interviewed a Bible scholar today. You interviewed a Bible scholar, right?
I interviewed him about a week ago. But today it actually got posted on our Patreon. It's going to come out on the YouTube channel on Monday. I'm sorry.
And it's most
having a Patreon.
And it's most glorious. And it's most glorious because I want people to understand. This is you who are talking to a Bible scholar. This is a person degreed with many degrees and this and that and all sorts of specialties and whatnot, and a minor in classical Greek. So this person is an expert in the field. That's just the way it is. And you're talking to this expert. Danny, there was a question about 8,000 words in Hebrew. And what did you think about the response that you got? If you don't mind talking about it. I know you don't want to spoil.
Well, I mean, I think he said it. So what happened was on the podcast, one of my main questions was to ask him his thoughts on what you said on the podcast, was that classical Greek has, I think, between 500,000 and 1 million unique words, and that ancient Hebrew has 8,000 unique words. And I asked him what his thoughts were on that, and he said it was something around like 80,000 or 70. He said like 79,426 is what his answer was. But he texted me after the podcast was over. We should have, Steve, naughty. We gotta get that whip for Steve. But Steve didn't Google it while we were recording. Steve,
yeah,
Steve.
You're watching. Okay, Steve, this one's for you. Take him down. Oh God, I don't like that, Steve. Don't you like it, mommy? Steve. Oh, that's with a PH.
Steve.
It's Steve with a PH. You know what happens, Danny? You totally up your credibility when you start beating invisible people with things. It's a fantastic place to be. Tell me something. You talked to him about that. He told you it was 79,000 something. Yep. There was a little discrepancy, right? There was a little discrepancy.
Like 79,400 and something.
Yeah.
But obviously, Steve should have Googled it right then and there. I got home, I Googled it, and you just Google how many words are in ancient Hebrew, and it shows you like right at the top in bold, 7,000 something, 7,000 and change.
Check this out. Check this out. Yeah. Danny, give me your comment on this. This is from the Jerusalem Post. The Israeli Academy continuing the unprecedented revival of the Hebrew language, right? And then underneath it says, in biblical Hebrew, there were approximately 7,000 words. Modern Hebrew has approximately 33,000. So this is not a disputed point or anything. This is what somebody who is a scholar of those texts should know very well. I'm really surprised. I'm really surprised that this isn't part of the education anymore.
So when you say there's 7,000 unique words in the ancient Hebrew language, is there a difference between ancient Hebrew and biblical Hebrew? Would there be a different number there?
No. They call biblical Hebrew, they call it classical Hebrew or ancient Hebrew to distinguish it from modern Hebrew. Yeah, definitely. Okay. Yeah, but it's all the same thing.
He did text me after the show. I think it was that night or maybe the next morning that he's like, hey, it was bugging me. I had to look it up and I was wrong. So he did at least recognize it afterwards.
Yes.
And,
yes. Okay.
We might put something on the screen to correct it, or I might let him like comment below the video or something so people know. I don't want people to be misinformed on it, but like it's a podcast. I say shit that's wrong every day, all day.
No, you don't.
Again, I mean, I'm not a biblical scholar.
From your mouth,
I'm an idiot.
It wasn't from your mouth. It wasn't from your mouth. That's unfair. And I thought your questions today were brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I thought it was more journalism than it was anything else. So, and you were trying to cut down you were just trying to get the reality. Let me show you really quick. Give me the next one, Chewy. This is that professor, by the way, who made that statement, just for people who think, well, his sources may not be the right sources. This is the professor. It's Gabe from Hebrew University in the Knesset, which is just a stone's throw away. Takes all of their Hebrew for modern Hebrew from him. He's the one who standardized modern Hebrew, and he does a fantastic job. He's part of their national organization to promote Hebrew, modern Hebrew. Fantastic. He's the one who's talking about ancient Hebrew being 7,000 words long. But for the Greek, I just wanted people to see for the Greek. This is from the TLG, and you can see that there are 115 million words, right? That's just occurrences of words. There are 262,000 lemmata in Greek, which are definitions, which are lexical entries, right? But you can have one word for a lexical entry and have 8 other Greek words underneath it that are embodied in the same definition. So we're looking at unique words. That's what we want. And you can see this database, which is out of University of California, this database has collected all of Greek literature. It's called the Thesaurus Lingua Graecae, TLG. And look at the number here. It's 1,775,000 unique word forms. So the question is, and this question is difficult for people to answer, and I'm going to play a clip that's from a debate that happened just yesterday or a day before, and what in this, the question is, does it matter that there are only 8,000 words in Hebrew? Go ahead and roll it, Chewy.
But I think last question. Yeah, what is your thoughts on the idea of Hebrew having 8,000 words and Greek having? What is your thoughts on that? And then we'll go to super chats.
I don't know. So I guess so much of this depends on how you're like the problem of making this kind of a comparison is because Greek and Hebrew, like they're different systems of languages, right? And because of that, I mean, for one thing, Greek has vowels. Hebrew is a consonantal polyglot, and it's hard to make this one-to-one comparison because words in what constitutes a word in Hebrew does different things than in Greek, and Greek is a much more flexible, malleable language because of, thankfully, vowels. Because of that, it's just, there's things that you can do with it that are way more expensive than whatever you can do with Hebrew. So in that sense, Hebrew looks like just a much simpler.
Ready for this?
Language, right?
Okay, Danny Jones. What's the feeling that you get? Honestly, to me, it makes me a little bit queasy to have that big of a bowl of verbal vomit. But you tell me now, from your perspective as somebody who's investigating what's going on, right? Whether or not this stuff is accurate, what's your impression of an answer like that?
My impression of an answer like that? I mean, can't Greek and Hebrew just get along? Why can't they get along? Why do we have to be battling over ancient languages in 2024?
Good point. Yeah, and they don't get along. And this is what really gets my goat about it, is that these are two biblical experts. And they seem to be erecting a wall.
Oh, you're talking about Kip and Dan.
Yes. They're professional biblical experts. CNN interviewed, right? He's good. Kip has stuff on CNN. He's a world authority, and he doesn't know something as basic as the number of words in your language and why that is significant.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know. Danny, is it just me, or did you feel there was a point in your interview where I felt like you pierced the fog of any sort of, it came at this point when Dan McClellan said, hey, what's going on? What's going on with this 8th and 7th century stuff? You were asking him, hey, where do we have documents from the Torah? Like, what's the oldest and whatnot? You had asked him about the Hellenistic creation of the Septuagint, right? You guys had talked about that, but then he said there were some documents from 8th and 7th century stuff. You were asking him, hey, where do we have documents from the Torah? Like, what's the oldest and whatnot? You had asked him about the Hellenistic creation of the Septuagint, right? You guys had talked about that, but then he said there were some documents from 8th and 7th the 8th and 7th centuries, and you caught him on it. You saw through it, and you said, "What are they?" Right? He said, "Well, they're not really there. It's just we propose the stuff that's later, like Isaiah
Right.
came from that time period." How does that make you feel as you're swimming through that swamp and you're
Not good. It doesn't make me feel good. It doesn't make me feel good about it, about the truth of it. That's for sure. I mean, I think he used an analogy in the podcast. He was like, "So, okay, Moses." He goes, I think he was talking about Moses. He goes, "The way you have to think about Moses," he goes, "imagine if your grandfather had this incredible war story, but he died 100 years ago, and the story wasn't told until today, but it's going to be written down, and then no one will see that writing for another couple hundred years." And I said, he goes, "It's like that." I'm like, I said, I wouldn't believe that. I wouldn't believe that war story if that was how it was produced. So yeah, I mean, when I was asking him about, I think it was Hectaeus, right? I think.
Hecataeus, you got it.
Hecataeus in 320 or whatever. And I asked him if that was the first time, like, why was there, if Moses was supposed to have lived in 1200 BC, how come we don't hear about him until 900 years after he's gone? Like, that doesn't make any sense. When would that ever happen? Why? How does that story get carried on? I don't understand.
Yeah.
And his explanation was that it's, when you read the Bible, you can make connections to 700 AD, I believe is what he said. Somehow you can somehow assume that that's when they were talking about. This is also slippery. It's also slippery, and it's also abstract.
Yeah. And I want you to know, Danny, please understand that when you go to a classics conference in international stuff, you know what I mean? Europe, America, Canada. When you go to those conferences, you will never catch that, right? You'll never catch that level of performance, because the professional circuit, the academic pounding that you take as a classical philologist, I noticed in the interview there were a lot of probablys, and not a lot of texts, not a lot of specifics, but a lot of probablys. And this is something that biblical scholars do that tends to just rankle classicists, because Danny, you can't get away with that kind of argument in an academic, in a real rigorous classical philological ancient Greek environment. Okay, let me show you. Go ahead.
No. I mean, look, I don't know. I know nothing about this topic, essentially. So I'm just sort of, with Dan, he was a super nice guy. I'm really happy that he came down and did the show. I got along with him great. I don't have anything negative to say about it. But when people come in and they say, I mean, I'm taking people's word for stuff most of the time. I can kind of like have a read for people if they're full of shit or not. But when it comes to a Bible scholar, I have no like background, and I have no knowledge of this stuff other than what I've learned in the past 2 months with you and Neil. So I'm taking what I've learned and trying to compare it to what he was saying. And I leave it up to people like you who have the credentials and the academic background to rip this stuff apart as much as you can.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay. Now, do you see, I just want to ask Satanic Congregation, do you see what's going on? You see that Renaissance person stepping forward? There's no funny thing going on here. Nobody has hypnotized Danny. No, he's not part of a cult. He's not part of a religion. What is he doing, though? He's activating that reasoned core. That's the classical reasoned core. And if you can't stand up against it, that's it, right? You fall. That's for those of us who worship that reason, who find that nature to be so compelling. I love it. Can I get a couple of, I know you've got to go. Can I get a couple of comments?
I got a minute.
Oh, you don't? Oh, I thought, okay, we were running up against the 30, so I didn't want to keep you.
No, it's okay. I could go for about another 10 minutes if you want.
Oh, fantastic. Give me one of these then, Chewy. Give me one of those. I think this is sums up just what you were just saying. A commenter says, what did Hillman make up? Right? Does anyone read ancient Greek? Right? So I can step up here and I can say anything, and I can sell you anything because you're not an expert. Okay, so in the field of experts, there are those who walk around and put on a show, right? And the ones who really are disciplined, who have been in the dojo and who have made this a part of their being, those people can tell, right? I can tell when I hear Dan's Greek. I can tell when I hear anything Kip says about Greek. I can tell that they're completely, they've had a couple of semesters at most, right? They're at a very low level of performance. So when he's telling you something that is completely non-source based, that's what compels me to say, hey, we need to really do something about this. But this comment betrays that. Go back to that comment, Chewy. Right? Does anyone read ancient Greek? No. And that's the trick. If I teach you the Greek, you'll have the tool. You can break down this stuff yourself. You can look up all these texts and see what it is. There's one thing I wanted to ask, Danny. You guys talked about the word Christ.
Yes.
I'm in a blue fog again, Chewy. Oh, there we go. You guys talked about the word Christing, and he said, look, this doesn't occur within the Christian vocabulary. And this is the perfect example that I just want to share with you. Look, here's a text from the Bible. It's in the Bible. Do these people actually read their own sources? Do you know what John Scarborough would have done if I'd have missed something like that? He'd have kicked me up and down one side of the hall and the other. He wouldn't have let me have pints with him at all. No, it's the big one here. I just want to get it right here. He was into pints. We had pints every day. About 3:00, we kick off and go to one of the pubs. And
really?
Yeah, and then I would.
How old was he when you worked with him?
Wander home. Oh, he was in his at least 55. Okay. Yeah, maybe 60 by the time. Yeah, yeah, in that range. Yeah, and look, here it is in Revelation. This first word is sumbuleo. Okay, I counsel you. That's all it says. I counsel you to what? Look at the third to last line. The two words in the end of the third to bottom are kai and kolurion. Kolurion's a drug, and the word on the next line is enchrisai. Bring it up. Show me, Chewy. This is the verb there. Are you ready? Here it is. This is in the Bible, people. And it means to what? You can see in the middle, if you take off the first two letters, Danny, you see the chris on it. Chris, right? That's from our chrio or from our Christos. And what is he telling him to do? Bring up that one more time. He's telling him to in Christ your eyes. The word ophthalmos is there. So we have a direct instruction. Now, from everything you heard from the biblical scholars that you have interacted with, this is an impossibility, right? But in their own text, they talk about Christing somebody's eyes. And what you're going to love this, Danny. This is going to blow your mind. The last two words are hina plepes. And you know what that means? It means in order that you may see. It's exactly what I told you in the interview. Exactly word for word. I didn't make that up. It's not an argument of mine. I was just quoting the text. Why do you think it is? Like,
it was poetic.
Yeah. Yeah. Why do you think it is that they are so, the drugs are so off the Christian radar?
I mean, I think some of the stuff you talk about, especially when it comes to the drugs and the trafficking and just the sick and twisted lifestyle these people lived in antiquity, it's so alien to modern morality. And I think people have a problem when people are high up in social institutions or they have peers they look up to that they believe they're going to get judged for talking about this stuff or acknowledging this kind of stuff. I feel like people just they are afraid of getting shunned from their pack, and they want to stay a part of their group. And I bet you it probably interests a lot of them, but they're afraid. They're too worried about their careers to touch this stuff. So,
hey,
yeah,
I can
man,
vouch.
I think that's what it is.
I can vouch for the career thing, definitely. Yeah, definitely. I can vouch
Yeah,
for
you
that.
can.
Yeah. There's a certain ceiling that, academia builds that you really can't go beyond it. Listen to the analysis, Satanic Congregation. Go play that back of what Danny just said. Go play it back. Perfect. That comes from the Temple of Reason, right? You see how it's there. It's native. Patient one has that native reasoning, right? That's why the inoculation of the Antichrist is so effective. Okay, I'm gonna have one more. I know you got to go. I just want to show you. You asked me, Danny, about Julius Caesar, and it came up. It came up in your interview, and I just want to show you quickly. This is the passage that talks about. This is Plutarch talking about Julius Caesar when he was 25 years old. He got captured by Lacedai, and what they do to him, they held him for ransom, and then he sailed. As soon as he got the ransom, he sailed away, got a Roman fleet, came back, took him captive, took back all his ransom, and then crucified him, every one of them. But that's what he told him he was going to do when he was being held captive. They held him for 38 days, and he was not a happy camper. Hear the text. Look at the second line. They capture him around the island called Drug Island. And it says he's captured by Peraton. Now you see the word. You say, wait a minute. Ammon, you told me it was Laestes. It is. Just wait. You told me it was Laestes, and it's Peraton. This is where we get our word pirate. And at this time that Plutarch is writing this, they're transitioning from a Laestes to a Peraton. They're changing the terminology. Watch. This is gorgeous. Go to the next one, Chewy. Boom. Here it is. Look at the Perates. What is it? It's a brigand. It's a pirate. Look at the last line though, Danny. It says later. It's a later word for a Laestes. And the person, look at the name at the bottom.
Ammon.
Yes. That is the dude. That is the dude who showed Plutarch exactly what was going on. Linguistically, he's a mathematician and all this kind of stuff. Crazy dude, right? Okay, now watch what happens, though. You're going to say, wait a minute, Peraton, that's not enough. Give me the last one. Look at this, Danny. Look at the second line. This is in the same passage of Plutarch, and it says, this is in his biography of Julius Caesar. And when is he writing? Right around 110 AD, right? So he is completely contemporary, Danny, which you pointed out in your interview. He is completely contemporary with the writing of the New Testament. So his terms are the New Testament terms. And you'll see in the second line, who are these pirates? They're Laestas. They're Laestas. And this is where it says Julius Caesar gathers them all up. He gathers them together, and he anestauros in them. He crucifies them, just like he said he would, right? So,
yeah, and I think I asked him as
think?
well. I asked him on the pod. I also asked Dan on the podcast. I asked him if the two guys that were crucified on each side of Jesus were Laestes, and I think he said they were not. Right?
Yeah, he said. He said they were. I don't know. He pulled out a lexicon, a New Testament lexicon, which is
it's a different lexicon.
Yeah, which is like pulling out a landmine. Imagine if we define the field by if the thieves get to write everything, right? That's basically the New Testament lexicon is. It's that idea. Danny, let me ask this. Did you feel like you were talking to someone who thought that people in the world of the New Testament narrative, those people were different from the people around them who, their neighbors and everything are speaking the same language? Did you get the feeling like Christianity is different, or monist mystery is kind of different from, those pagans? What are those pagans doing? That doesn't apply. Did you get that feeling?
Not really. No, I don't think. and it's I don't really, I can't, as soon as I walk out of a podcast, I kind of blank on it. I lose all memory of it. But I haven't watched that one back yet. I'll have to watch it again to see it, to try to remember what I was thinking during that moment. But I mean, look, he admitted he's a Mormon, and he's got some biases that exist, but he says he's aware of his biases, which that's good. I think everybody should be aware of their biases. But you know, it just goes back to what I was saying earlier, man. I think a lot of people, they don't want to touch the stuff because it is so heretical. And yeah, that's what I ultimately think. I don't know enough to say anything about him or how much he still reads or studies. But I mean, how much is there to read and study, to learn from when it comes to biblical literature? Yeah. Is there an endless amount of literature you can read, like in Greek, like how you can read all these medical texts, you can read all these poems, all these plays, and all this stuff? Yeah. Is it the same with Christian literature, or is there only like a certain amount of testaments and gospels and all this stuff?
Yeah, I've read a lot of it, and I can tell you they've got a good amount, but they don't read anything around them, which is where you caught this problem when you asked him, right. You know, do you know who Lucian is? Right. Yeah. He should know that from his exposure to Greek, to classical Greek. He should know that. That should be there.
He said when we pulled up Lucian on Wikipedia, and we found out when he was writing, and it said, and I think Dan actually said, "Oh, that's right around the time the Gospels were authored." Yeah. Right. And you know, and you also brought out Lucian is from the same area. He's from Syria, and he's in Egypt at one point. And right. So you were right. The same area as well. Right after, I think he made the point. He's like, when you're reading this stuff and you're going back in time to understand what these texts mean, you have to consider, like, was this person in Texas or in Norway? Like, it's going to make a difference. So they have to be, you think about geography, you have to think about human timeline, which epoch it was happening in, and figure out what was happening in the surrounding world. And we basically did a reverse engineer on Lucian and found out that he was in the same exact part of the world in the exact same time, which was kind of a cool little epiphany that happened.
Yeah, no, and there are several. That's not the only.
He was the one who wrote the most about Laestace, right?
Right. So he wrote a whole book about how bad Alexander was. Look, though, I just want you to notice, and I'll stop here because I know you got to run, and I can see Chewy. Was there lightning in the background? I thought I saw some lightning.
Are you talking about here? Yeah. Yeah. I'm in the middle of a rainstorm right now. I'm on the back patio of my little bungalow. I'm in Costa Rica right now.
Oh God! Did you see any iguanas?
Oh yeah, I saw a cat ripping an iguana to shreds earlier.
Oh God, the death and slaughter. All right, hey, you need to get back to your
I got a question for you.
Yes, please.
It's just I'm serious. Why do you think it is that when people get old, by and large, they end up getting more religious and believing in Jesus?
I think it's because if you haven't answered that death question, you're still scared shitless, bro. Right? It's coming. Yeah. Right. And I think the closer you are to it, and you can ask me because I'm old, and I can tell you the closer that I get to it, the more obvious it is all over the place. So I don't know. That's a total guess, though. Look at my terrible opinions. I'm not supposed to give it. Why do you think it is that a person starts thinking about that?
I don't know. I think you're probably spot on with that. I think it's people are trying to grapple with what happens after you die. I think you're spot on.
If you could have a mystery,
I've just noticed it so much lately. I feel like everywhere, ever since I've started diving into this stuff, I'm seeing more and more people, confessing their love for Christianity. And today I saw a video of Russell Brand and Alex Jones praying to God before they started the podcast. They were like doing a prayer, and Russell Brand, he's a former actor, movie actor, and now he's like a very successful podcaster. They were literally saying a prayer, and he was talking about his new devotion to Christianity and all this stuff. I feel like I've just seen that a lot lately.
You know, I think that's why we need the vaccine. I think that's why we need the antidote, right? That Antichrist is an antidote, and it really is. It really is a knowledge. That's how it's represented in the text. You know what the big enemy is? The mystery. And if people learn what the mystery is, that will bring the end of the world. That knowledge will bring the end. I think it's gorgeous. I think people need to realize, at least to know this historically, that your ancestors, right, were doing a rite that would push you into death and then bring you back in order that you might lose your fear of death. And they all walk around afterwards saying, oh, God, I'm born again, right? So maybe, Danny, is it possible that there's something out there naturally that we should be doing to reach the other side and get pulled back and realize, oh, this is what it's all about? So it clicks and it makes sense. I don't know. You want to go join a mystery somewhere?
Yeah, I do want to join a mystery. I got scared. I'm reading Ruck's book, the one you sent me, and he was saying in the book that a lot of people actually died when they were doing the Eleusinian rituals, when they were practicing those rituals. A lot of them would like accidentally overdose, and it happened a lot. Yeah, that's so why I want to make sure we have to get the dose right. I'm a lightweight.
No, that's why they have so much antidote literature, right? We got to do this right, man. Whoever's coming up with the formula and stuff, those people have to be straight on. And you know we're going to lose a few people in the process. Every once in a while, the oracle, while she's sitting there prophesying to you, she just do something crazy. They had one who ran out the back of the temple, and the temple was built on a cliff. She just jumped. She just jumped into the abyss right in the middle of her prophesying, composing poetry. Oh, God. No. Yeah.
It's wild stuff, man.
Yeah. But, how do you feel? Can I ask you how you feel having learned so much in the area and having done a deep dive into it? Does it make you feel like it's something we should have been doing or something? You know, like people always tell me, oh, I should have been doing this years ago. You know, I should have been learning this stuff. Does it feel good? Are you helping your soul at all? Is what I'm trying to say. You know, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely helping the soul. I felt more inspired. I feel a lot more inspired reading this kind of stuff, reading your books, listening to you talk on your YouTube channel, reading Carl Ruck's books. I know it's frowned upon, but I'm also reading the John Marco Allegro book just to see where he lines up with all this stuff. But this world it's mind opening and it's soul opening, and we got to do everything we can to make it more known without having to. I mean, obviously, understanding how to read Greek is the holy grail, but we got to make it more accessible to people. And it's very clear from your podcast that people are interested in this stuff. So. Yeah, and you do a great job. You do a great job. Positive. The Hail Satan throat punch in the beginning. That really got me. You threw me off. I was not expecting that. I love it. I love the gadfly.
You used it on me, back on me. You used the force back on me tonight. Did you notice? Hail Satan always takes them off their guard, right? It always does, right? Oh, God, I love it. Everybody who's watching tonight, please, all of my audience, watch Danny Jones for the sake of the path that he took, because it's a pioneer's path forward of a Renaissance mind. And I can't, Danny, I love you, man, and I really appreciate every minute that I've ever spent with you has been some kind of divine friggin' gift. And Chewy's nodding her head. She's sitting there nodding her head. So please give.
Shout out to Chewy.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, Ammon. I love you too, man. I love learning more about this stuff. And hopefully we can do another podcast again in the near future.
Oh God, why are you so gracious to me? It's gorgeous. I have to give you back then the best. You know what I'll do? I'll dig up the dirtiest, nastiest stuff I can possibly find. And throw you right in it. Everybody, please go see Danny Jones and watch the Renaissance coming alive. Thank you, Danny, for coming tonight. Hail Satan.
Hail Satan. Thank you for having me, Ammon, and thank you, Chewy. Good night, everybody.
My girl's got the shit that will jack you up and knock you on your hiney. Time to say goodnighty. All of my love burning up, lavender hot stuff in this thing. Medea's kiss, click, bang. Hot purple barbarouse, burning up my love for you. Wandering star, rolling with the sword, going door to door, saving all the children. Hot purple living, blazing up all my love. Inhale deep, take 2 puffs, just a touch, not too much. Should get on top of you with a little push. 3 days late, what happened to your face? Your shit went flush. Don't rub a duck. Latex purple, that girl work you. Hot purple gasoline, Medea belly dancing in the moonshine. Chalice glowing, Rayman Zeus, operator smooth.
Hot fire gasolina, Medea medicina. Hot fire gasoline, Hail Satan come to see ya. Hot fire gasolina, Medea medicina. Hot fire gasoline, Hail Satan come to see ya.